It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a...
Hello and welcome. Yes, they're back. The wise men have gone on their holidays, and look what I've got in their stead. A very warm welcome to Champ.ie Week 2. Thanks to Stablemate, who are sponsoring this and keeping them employed. And above all, we have a weekend to really savour with racing from Wetherby and Ascot. Yes, winter is upon us. Ascot, first meeting of the new season. Wetherby, it's their prize meeting of the season. There's nothing prize about this lot. But let me introduce them to you in no particular order. First of all, a man about whom it was once said, and still they gazed, and still the wonder grew that one small frame could carry all the brew. It is, of course, Mr. Barry Doyle, who is the founder of this. What can you say about Ronan Groome? Well, I'm not going to try. Here he is. And the third man, it's great to have him back. He's been visiting winners' enclosures since we last had the pleasure of drinking, but he's been doing it all undercover. He's not told anybody of his intention to go there. Despite all that, we've still managed to get him back where we didn't know anybody else. Welcome to Thomas Coyle as well. That is this week's panel. And you are involved in this. Every single one of you please to get involved. We've got a 5-cast competition, and we'll tell you a little bit more about it. And we'll also, I'm delighted to say, hear from one of the rising stars of the trainers' ranks this year with the world at his feet. Joe Tizzard will join us a little bit later on after we've talked about 2 races from Wetherby, which is where we start, right by the A1 in West Yorkshire. You can't miss it. Lovely, warm people in West Yorkshire. This is their big Saturday of the year, and we're going to concentrate on a couple of races there first before we move the roadshow on to Ascot. The first of which is the 3 o'clock at Wetherby. This is the Bet 365 West Yorkshire Hurdle. Field of 6 here, and all about the return of Sporting John, who, of course, I keep having to remind myself, Ronan, is a Group 1 winner over fences, but he looks as though he's going to go down the hurdles route again.
Yeah, of course, he won that grade, won the Silly Isles that year. A weird kind of race. He came and nabbed Shannon Blue late on. I think they went a mad pace up front, but they tried to turn him into a hurdler last year, Mike, and only got 3 runs into him. He won 2 of them, handicap hurdles at Cheltenham and Warwick. And I think the angle here, why he's in so short, is he's a good horse fresh. I think his record coming off a break at 200 days, I have written down here, is first, second, first. So you're thinking that he's going to be ready to run for his life here. In what looks a trappy little contest, and he's not found by the market. He's in there 15 to 8. I have in front of me here, 7 to 4 kind of mark. It's not a huge betting race for me, Mike, I have to say. If I was to say one, I'd probably go with last year's winner, Indefatigable. I've always followed her. Thought she was running a nice little race in the Mayor's Hurdle last year before she came down. She's had a similar sort of prep to last year. She ran on the flat. She probably ran as good as she did coming into this race last year on her prep one on the flat when she was 5th of 8 in a good race at Pontefract with horses that are rated a lot higher than her. I thought that was a decent enough effort and should leave her cherry ripe for this. She gets all the way as a mare, and I think she'll go well again.
And how about you, Thomas Coyle? Thomas Derby for you?
Well, he could be interesting. It's his first time after a wind up, so maybe he has snippets of form going back, but he's been disappointing in the hole, I think. I think the mare that Ronan was thinking, I think it's hard now to go for a 9-year-old turning 10-year-old mare thinking she can keep her form going over that long. I just think, from my own opinion, she's enough racing probably at this stage, and it's very hard, I think, for a mare to keep going like that in higher grade races. I think it's Sporting John's to lose, really. I think 3 under through 5 is probably a prep run. Sure, he was going well, and I was chasing last year. Probably disappointed at the last in Aintree. But yeah, I think it's going to be probably fairly straightforward. My one thing is, I don't know, is Tom O'Brien riding as well maybe as he was? I just think probably get absolutely slated for that now.
Controversial.
Yeah, he wouldn't be.
Fancy the leg
We're
up,
up
do
to
you?
getting Tom O'Brien on the show anytime soon. He was a contender
No,
this week.
no, he wouldn't be my cup of tea anyway.
I'll
Sorry.
save you, Tom. I'll just jump in. Sporting John wins. Simple as that.
None of you have mentioned, of course, it's interesting that three up and through 5 is in this.
Is that prep run, Mike?
From Press at Cheltenham, and of course another horse that is back over the hurdles, having been jumping fences. But you know what you're doing, or at least you keep telling me that. So I'm not going to stir it up. Let's going to move straight on to the Charlie Hall. Of course, last year's Charlie Hall, one of the most extraordinary races you'll ever see, was all about surname when he emptied. Chanbleu went 20 odd lengths clear, and then wanted to take the third last home with him. And anybody remember the horse that won it? Fusil Raffles.
Who's the Raffles?
Looking as though he was going to be third and beating about 2.5 postcodes. Field of 7 here. Interesting race. Paul Nicholls running 2. Bravemansgame and Secret Investor. And we've got Eldorado Allen. We'll hear more from the Tizzard camp shortly. And, of course, Win My Wings. What a season she had last year, winning the Ida and the Scottish National, and maybe heading for Aintree this year. Barry, for once in my life, I'm going to be generous and give you first innings on this.
It's a great little charity hall, isn't it? Intriguing with the... It's great that Bravemansgame and a high senior stand their ground. You were just hoping that... you were expecting, I suppose, one to pull out. And it's great that they come in, obviously, moving up into open grade. Obviously, 2 novices coming through. Eldorado Allen gives them £3, both of them. He is a pound higher in the ratings, but I just think that it was the makings of this horse stepping him up in trip last season, and he was crying out for a step up in trip at Newbury. Probably brings in the best piece of form in my view anyway. On last season, the Denman Chase, there was only 5 runners. Obviously went and won that, jumped impeccably, big galloping straight, going left-handed once again. I think is going to suit, and he has a good record fresh. For me, he's the play in here. I think Bravemansgame, I'm absolutely willing to take him on at the price of 6-4. First run back after a wind up. He's had wind issues and very disappointing, I thought, at Aintree. A high senior, probably going to have bigger targets later on in the season, as will Bravemansgame. And Eldorado Allen, I reckon he's set up for an early campaign this season. Whatever he does before Christmas, I think is where his targets lie, and I think he'll take a lot of beating here. And at the price,
even though he's giving the weight away.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, 5-1.
He's a positive man. Ronan.
Yeah, I can see the angle. He's another horse that goes well fresh. He's the actual one that had that record of first, second, first, coming off a 200-day break that I wrote down here. So he's another horse that goes well fresh, and probably, as Barry says, is probably be his kind of Gold Cup kind of run. Maybe they put him away then again and bring him back for something there. We'll see. But to be honest with you, I'd be disappointed now if Bravemansgame or a high senior couldn't beat him, even with that angle, especially getting £3 off him. Look, they're really tightly matched. They had a good few battles last season. I think I was always in the high senior camp, but I can see the reason why people would suggest that Bravemansgame probably wasn't at it at Aintree at that point. Maybe the previous runs just took it out of him. But he didn't run at Cheltenham, and the high senior did. And the high senior, the form of that race was still pretty good. Like, he beat a Grade 1 winner in Fury Road, who seemed to run his race. Before that, obviously, he was second in the Brown Advisory. And to be honest, his best piece of form is probably over this course and distance. So you could arguably say it is. He beat the national winner, Noble Yates. Beat him really well. And the foreman behind him that day is quite good as well. Ashton Ladd went on to run third in the Scottish National. And the 4th horse, St. Palais, won a good handicap chase on his next start. And a high senior fairly trashed them all, to be honest, giving them all weight. I think he's a real Gold Cup horse. I think he possibly needs to go left-handed as well. And I think everything's set up here for him to launch a huge season. So a high senior for me.
Tommy?
Yeah, I think Barry's on a Joe Tizzard buzz after talking to him there this morning. I can't see him beating the 2 at the top of the market, to be honest. Yeah, look, the boys have said it'll be interesting. They're first into open company, so it'll be a good race. Wouldn't be a betting race for me. Just one other in it. Win My Wings. Christian Williams done absolutely fantastic things with this horse in handicaps. I know it's a little bit less than the ratings, but it's getting £6 off them, so it ties her back into it. If it is in that sort of form again, it won't run a bad race. I'd nearly have a match bet with Barry there over Eldorado Allen.
It's probably more fitting, and I know we have to mention every horse in the race, Mike, before we do move on. Secret Investor, I did hear Paul Nichols talking about this horse. He hasn't been seen in just under 2 years, but Secret Investor was last seen. He beats Clandezobo. He's rated 150. He's a 10-year-old. He does get weight. He gets £6 off Eldorado Allen and £3 off the other two. He's been in training, back in training. He's been working since July. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him run a massive race. And look, Eldorado Allen for me.
2021 Denman Chase, that when he beat the Clan, and Brownie takes the ride. Well, why don't we hear a little bit more about Eldorado Allen and all things Tizzard? They got quite a few runners on the Wetherby card, and we sent our hero to talk to the new master of Milburn Port, Joe Tizzard. Here's Barry's thoughts in conversation with him.
You've taken over from your dad. How's trading?
Well, not masses has changed back here, to be honest. It was pretty smooth transfer. Nothing's changed. I was lucky to step straight into a big yard that was already up and running. So it's the right time for all of us back here. Been a big family business all along, and it was the right time for Dad to just sort of step back and not have so much of the pressure and the phone calls with the owners and etc. But right time for me as well. He's still about. He's up here every morning on the gallops, but just frees his time up a little bit more.
I was going to say, does he still appear on the gallops every now and then? But you've answered that, so.
Yeah, well, he appears, and if you need a bit of advice, you get it. If you don't need a bit of advice, you still get it anyway.
Super. But look, Joe, the horse is running really well. I was just looking, the strike rate's pretty decent, above 20% at the moment, and 22 winners for the season. And you have 4 entries, I think, I counted, for Wetherby this weekend.
Yeah. There's been a cracking summer with a few horses, and the first of the winter horses have started really well. So I can't complain with them. And taking the 4 up. We're going to run Naming Lights, who won his last 2 novice hurdles back end of the season. We're going to run him on Friday in a handicap hurdle. Looks to have done well through the summer and can hopefully he's off a workable mark. And then the 3 up there on Saturday with Oscar's Elite, who is just we wanted to get a spin into him before he has to go at the Coral Gold Cup at the end of November. And he's still a novice. We're going to run him in a novice chase, and then we thought, well, he's in good form. We'll have a dab at the Great Yorkshire Hurdle, which is a race we ran Native River in actually before he went on to win the Hennessy. It was then. So that looks a nice prep run for him. Eldorado Allen has been his first target's been the Charlie Hall all season. It seems in good order. Like I said, the winter horses seem to be fit enough. So. He's done plenty. We look forward to running him in that. I think an easy 3 miles around Wetherby will suit him. Obviously there's 2 progressive young, not like second season chasers with Bravemansgame and a Hoy Senior, but we got a bit of experience. We won the Denman last year, and I'm looking forward to running him. They sort of tell us then whether he's good enough to go King George route, or we've just got to just pick away under the radar a little bit more. And Akibo May, whose horse had a wind up. Something was stopping him last year, so we've done his wind. So hopefully he'll be competitive off his mark.
Yeah, well, listen, it looks certainly looks like you have some live chances this weekend. And Eldorado Allen, just picking it up on him. I mean, he seemed a bit of a revelation last season when you stepped him up in trip. 162 rated at the moment. How far, honestly, do you think he can go?
Well, he obviously to where he is, it's difficult to win handicaps off 162. So he's in that little bit of no man's land at the moment. So I need 3 miles from it. It made first time we did it was in the Denman, and he beat he beat Royal Pagel and Clandazobo. So, you know, that's decent form. So hopefully there's a bit more to come. He seems really well, and hopefully on this trip it'll just eat that little bit more. But, you know, he needs to improve to sit right at the top table.
Yeah, and you mentioned he's well in himself. How forward is he ahead of his reappearance?
Well, we've had a clean run, and the horses that we've been running have been running well, you know, and they seem fit enough for their first run. So he hasn't missed a beat. He's done everything exactly the same as what the rest of them have done. You know, there's been no opportunities to sort of get them away and gallop them with the ground conditions, but he won first. He won the Holden Gold Cup first time out last year, so he's a horse that runs well fresh.
You mentioned Mrs. Middleton, obviously a good supporter of the yard. 3 of the runners this weekend are owned by herself, and Oscar Elite. I mean, it was an absolute cracker he ran in Cheltenham last year off 138, but runs over hurdles now.
Yeah, it's just a prep run. You know, the main target is the Coral Gold Cup at Newbury. So this is sort of the grounds come right now. It's our last chance to give them a prep. You know, we could have gone in a novice chase on Friday, but we decided that, like, he seemed in good form, we'd give him a spin in this and use this as a stepping stone to Newbury. You know, he ran a blinder in the Ultima at Cheltenham. He's actually had his wind. We found a problem with him after Aintree. He had a trapped epiglottis, so that's been sorted out. And you know, he's second in Albert Bartlett. He's a classy horse on his day, and we think he's competitive off 139.
Super. And mentioning good supporters of the year, Mr. Romans, JPR1, Amarillo Sky. He's some lovely prospects for the year.
Yeah, John's been a big, huge supporter of the yard over the years, and you know, he's put his neck on the line and bought plenty, and he's probably got his best team of horses ever now. You know, we're really excited about JPR1. We're just gonna take our time with him and just be a bit careful. But you know, he's involved in Eldorado Allen. Elegant Escape's obviously been brilliant for us, and he's going to head for the veterans final. So yeah, John deserves it. You know, he's a big part of the owner's team, and he enjoys it a lot, and deserves to have a good team of horses.
Yeah, one of the horses I wanted to mention to you is Killer Kane. Won twice over fences last season. Is the plan, did he read Cheltenham in November?
No, he's going to go. He'll probably go to Exeter next Friday in the Holden Gold Cup day. Not in the Holden Gold Cup, but there's a race for him down there. And then there's a lovely race for him at Newbury on that Coral weekend. You know, and John loves being up at Newbury, and you know, Coral, because our yard sponsor as well, look after us really well. So he's gonna. That's his plan of attack. Super.
And how is Warlord? I wanted to ask you about Warlord.
Yeah, Warlord's good. He heads to the Holden Gold Cup next Friday. You know, that's going to be his first run of the season. Pretty similar to the route we took with Eldorado Allen last year. You know, we think he'll gradually step up and trip. I'm not saying he'll get to 3 miles, but I'd have no problem running him back over 2.5. So 2.25 first time off of 149 in the Holden Gold Cups is his first target, and then you know, we could look at the Peterborough Chase and things like that with him after.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, he's similar sort of profile, doesn't he, to Eldorado Allen, stepping into open company this season. Would be the plan with Warlord to step him up. You mentioned the Peterborough Chase. Is that where you see his future over longer trips?
I think so. You know, if you watched him in the Arkle, you know, he just got a bit tap for toe down the hill and into the straight, and then stayed on again. So he stayed 2.5 over hurdles on soft ground. So I've no doubt that that 2.5 plus will be his trip in time. No rush to step him up, but I think that'll be as we go through the season, he'll gradually make his way up through.
How's the Fiddler?
Fiddler's great. He's in good nick. You know, he's going to have another crack at the Coral Gold Cup at Newbury, and then second half of the season go back to the national. So we might actually give him a spin over hurdles at Aintree next weekend, and then have a look at Newbury, and then freshen him up again and have a crack at the Grand National again.
Speaking of staying chasers, I mean, I did want to touch on, I mean, the big breakaway came with a massive reputation, and obviously Lost in Translation as well. I mean, they look a lovely team to go in those big staying handicaps this year.
Yeah, well, we're lost. He's going to go back up to the Sefton next weekend over the big fences. You know, he jumped great in the national last year, just didn't get the trip. So back to 2.25 around there should be right up his street. He seems in real good nick at home, even though he's 10 years old. So that's the plan with him. And the big breakaway, he struggled with his shins all last year. You know, he was pretty. They were just nagging us all year, and we've had them fired, and now they seem really good. I might probably start him in the Badger Bear next Saturday at Wincanton, and then, you know, I've got in the back of my mind he could be a Welsh national horse.
Super. Well, Joe, look, I suppose a couple of final questions for you. Obviously, you know, you've invested in youth in the yard, young prospects, maybe for hurdles or bumpers that we should be maybe keeping an eye on this season.
Yeah, well, we had the start of the season, like the winter season proper. We had 31 unraced horses, so we got a good, hopefully a good team of novices. You know, they're our future. I mean, a couple that I've already run that I really like the look of already was a horse called Call the Dawn. He was second to a horse of Harry Fry's out in Newton Abbott, rated 132 a couple of weeks ago. He's only a 4-year-old. It was a lovely first run on the track. I think he'll improve no end. So he's certainly one to watch out for. And a mare that won on at Foss on Sunday called I Love the Nightlife. I think she's smart. She was green and she was a bit novice over hurdles, but she came away nicely at the end. And you know, we'll probably give her a run with a penalty and then have a look at trying to get her some black type and some listed races through Christmas.
Yeah, and there was one horse I did want to ask you about. Obviously, you're a big fan of the Irish point-to-point field. Classic Anthem. He looks a very exciting prospect for this year. How's he? Yeah,
he does. Yeah, I mean, he'll probably go up to Aintree next weekend as well. I mean, the finishes we bought a couple of stores as well. I think they're gorgeous looking horses, and you know, this horse has done everything right at home. Schooled well. I'd be disappointed if he couldn't go very close in his first novice hurdle.
When are we likely to see him out?
Possibly up at Aintree next Sunday.
Super. Well, best of luck with him. I know he's a smashing prospect. And just for this weekend, finally, Joe, best chance of a winner?
I think best chance of a winner will be Eldorado Allen. He's in good nick. I think he could. I think he'll run well. You know, there'll be no hiding places. But we won't shy away from being bang out there prominent, and see how we go.
Best of luck. Listen, you're a gentleman, and tell Colin we were all asking for him.
I will do.
No, please, no Sunday game music. I've retired from that show. I'm very, very sorry. Des Cahill here, retired, of course, from the Sunday game after so many years. I'm trying out for a bit of work here on Champ.ie. Barry has given me the opportunity to come on and maybe do a few interviews throughout the course of the National Hunt season. Am I sounding okay in the racing? Yeah, great. Wonderful. I'm going to be joined by Boris Johnson as well today, the former Prime Minister of the UK, and also we'll have our special guest on, Colin Tizzard, ahead of the big race on Saturday. That, of course, is the Charlie Hall Grade 2 chase at Wetherby. Right, firstly, we're going to get Boris Johnson's take on all things racing this week.
Well, yes, racing has been at the forefront of my, campaign to get back as Prime Minister this week, but unfortunately, Rishi Sunak, I think he has no interest whatsoever in the game of racing, and that is a big disappointment now. He will let on he has, and I don't think for one moment that the Conservatives should have gone for him this week. They should have put me back in power, and racing would have been in a much safer place, like lots of things over the last 12 months have been in my hands.
Okay, Boris, an interesting viewpoint from you there on that. Well, we're delighted to be joined by our special guest this week, and that, of course, is Colin Tizzard. He is the father of Joe Tizzard, who's taken over the training licence, and he's got Eldorado Allen in the Charlie Hall chase this week. Colin, thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem at all, and looking forward to a big race on Saturday. You know, he's Eldorado Allen. He's a really nice horse, and he's come on plenty, we think, from last year. And Joe's taken over now, so as I said to him during the week, he'll be a bit of pressure on, but should come through all the pressures. And I'm looking forward to backing him up and still being there on the gallops and on the farm and making sure everything goes well. It's a good race, and I think Lucinda Russell's runner, Ahoy Senor, Muir's probably going to take all the beating under Derek Fox, and Bravemansgame for Paul Nicholls. It's a quality race, and I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to Joe starting out in a very exciting training career after me being so successful over the years.
Well, thanks indeed to Boris and to Colin Tizzard. Great weekend's racing, and Barry has many more guests throughout the show to take you through the action this week. Bye for now, and I'll be back again very, very soon on Champ.ie.
Well, that is Joe Tizzard, our special guest on Champ.ie, and we'll hear from star names every week throughout the winter. Let me remind you, you need to be starting to think about your 5 casts. We've done 2 races. We're about to talk about 3 at Ascot. And what you have to do is subscribe and getting involved by posting your 5 cast. No outright winner last week, with 2 winners or more. So the competition rolls over. Big thanks to stablemate, and Barry will tell you a little bit more in a moment or two. But let's look at these 3 races, shall we, at Ascot. And we go hurdling, first of all, at 2:05 with a field of 10. Mr. Nicholls, of course, got the heavy mob, Cobden and Frost, both at Wetherby. So Angus Chieda, who's good value for £5, is on the top one here. Hacker de Place. But I would imagine that Any Harm in Asking is catching a few people's eyes here. It's one of those where you've got father and son, isn't it? Because you've got John Joe Neal Sr. and Jr. And then down the bottom, you've got Jamie Moore riding for his father. And also, of course, I mentioned Nicholls. He's also got in the race Magistrato with Lorcan Williams on board. All yours, Ronan.
Yeah, nice little contest. Nice little competitive handicap hurdle at Ascot. I love to see the jumps back at Ascot. I think it's a great, nice few fixtures that they have there. I guess a lot of people will be concentrating on the John Joe horse here, as you said, Mike. Any Harm in Asking. I've seen him in a few to follow lists at the start of the season. But I just think he's the type of horse that probably gets too much concentration, because he looks like he has the sexy profile there, the coming off the 2 wins, but he hasn't done much really. He's on, I guess, and he's only a 5-year-old.
And Constitution Hill in a point to point. He beat Constitution Hill in a point to point.
That's a point to point. I'm judging him here off wins at Sedgefield and Catrick, his last 2 handicap hurdles. So it's a long time ago. I think Constitution Hill has progressed a long way ahead of that point to point form. I'd be happy enough to say. So I just think horses like him get too much concentration, and I'd rather take him on with something here like the Nicky Henderson train Broomfield Berg. He's got a run under his belt already, and he's got proven good handicap hurdle form, having finishing 3rd at Chepstow there in the Silver Trophy to Nappers Hill. He's a horse that travels really strongly through his races, and I think that will set up nicely from here, because he got Highway 102, who likes to go off and bolt off in front, and possibly a couple of others who'll set a decent gallop here. And he's just, if he travels into the races like he can do, I can't see him out of the frame. He's around 7-1. Washington, Ollie Murphy's Washington was another one I thought was more interesting. He's the same sort of profile as Any Harm in Asking, nice, but he does have proven handicap hurdle form, having finished 3rd at Aintree. He's got a weight swing with Hacker de Plessis, who beat him there, and he's got scope to progress like Any Harm in Asking, but he's like 3 times the price. He's 10-1. So Broomfield Berg is my main selection, but I'd be keeping an eye on Washington as well, possibly to play each way against the favourite.
Barry?
I think Any Harm in Asking is probably one of the best handicapped horses in training. They were going down the route of the county hurdle with him last year. Obviously, it is a long time ago, beating Constitution Hill in a point to point. That's he's still done it. There's not very much horses going to beat him this season. This is obviously a different ball game. 2 miles around Ascot. The soft has, or the rain has got a little bit into the ground. I think at Ascot it was good grounds as of last night when I was taking a look at the race. Good to soft now. Any Harm in Asking, I don't think he had a major setback. He's obviously put up a bit of a sequence. He's on a hat-trick bid, coming from a rating of 114 up to 137. I think at the end of the season over hurdles, he's a proper hurdler. I think this fella he is a proper 2 mile hurdler. It's not a case of, he's going to be a better chaser or something like that. Any harm in asking. I think this season over hurdles will achieve a much better rating than 137. And John Joe's obviously won this race last year. I like a couple of favourites.
So let's move on to the man who's in my ear just before we started this said, keep me till last, or at least he knows his place. Tommy.
Yeah, I didn't get a great look, but I have to agree with Barry. I think John Joe's horse is probably one to follow all right this year. I'm not going to harp on. I just think one interesting thing is I'm not even going to try and pronounce it before Ronan gives me a bit of stick, but Nigel Hawke's horse. It's very interesting that Kieran Buckley, who has been flying this side of the water for a lad that probably has been a slow burner in England, but has come over here and has really set his career on fire, really, riding for the likes of Gordon, Gavin. But it's interesting that he goes back over to renew his partnership with this lad. He has some good form. As Barry says, the rain has come. That won't inconvenience this lad. So he could be a bit of a player at a price, a 14 to 1 or so. Yeah, he could squeeze a bit of each way money out for the lads.
Okay, move on to the first of the two chases. This one is the 2 miler, the Burn Group at 240. A field of 10. Though whether Jake Donson takes his chance, we wait to see, because it's also in at Wetherby on Friday. Nobody mentioned the Venetia Williams horse in the previous race. It's probably not her time of year, but then last year she rewrote so many different records. Who wants first innings on this? Barry Doyle.
Yeah, Time White is the one I liked here, Mike. He's about 13 to 2, I think. Larkin Williams, Paul Nichols up. Or say Paul Nichols trained, very lightly raced individual. He's only a 6-year-old. He's only had 5 starts over fences. He's only been out of the money on 2 of those. So that was consistent enough. I think they had high hopes for this fella last year. Over fences, one at Doncaster on soft ground. So the rain coming isn't going to inconvenience him. 2 miles. He probably would get further in time, but I think a strong run 2 miles here at Ascot and good to soft ground over 2 miles in a furlong is probably going to suit this fella. More to come. 142. He's of interest. 11 stone 6 here. And that'll be my play. Number 7. I think he represents good value. I'm happy to take on those at the top of the market before midnight. Amula Gold, even though they are course and distance winners. I think there's more upside with this 6-year-old. Time White.
I'm going to say I was at Aintree. He was a fall waiting to happen. He jumped terribly all the way around before he finally came to grief. Somebody who's never jumped well in his life is Tommy Coyle.
Yeah, I haven't got the head for heights. Just one. I just like Monsieur Lecoq, and he's had a run a couple of weeks ago in Chepstow. Was 4 to 5, but wasn't beaten a whole far. So maybe just with the run under his belt, he could go close in this. Just funny as well. I don't know. Maybe Barry was talking, but see that young
Barry talking? Surely not.
Young Freddie Gingell. That's Tizzard's nephew, isn't it? You see him riding for Paul Nichols in this, is he? Has he changed?
Yeah, he's Joe Tizzard's late sister's boy. So
yeah,
his uncle riding for Uncle Joe, but riding for Nichols. Yeah. I mean, he's doing well.
Yeah. So he's interested in taking £10 off the top weight there as well. So good to see the young lad getting going.
Get off the fence. Who are you going with?
Oh, Jane Williams' horse, Monsieur Lecoq.
Ronan, I'm just looking at this NASA lad. Let's remember what a great finish that was on this card last year when he just beat Soto. And he's not without a chance, is he?
No, he's got a good chance. They all have good chances. He's only a 5-year-old and he's loads of scope to progress, Mike. But you say you haven't seen Thomas Coyle jump well. I saw him jump all over the ground in a county final in Park Tolchin there a couple of years ago. So he's some man for that. He's some man for that. Winning for his
fond of an old dive, all right.
But you did the pronunciation quite well there on Monsieur Lecoq. He's an old favourite of mine as well. I give him a decent chance here. He finished second in this last year to Amula Gold, but the Amula Gold was subsequently disqualified. I think they found something silly in the substance or whatever after. And he's a decent record at Ascot, and he's a decent record over fences in fairness to him as well. He's 3 wins and 4 places, and he has a similar prep going into the race last year. Just a run over hurdles there at Chepstow. Should believe him cherry ripe. But just won a huge race here. I couldn't believe this old Noel Mead horse, Daily Tiger. You're getting 25 to 1. 33 is a bit of money from there this morning. First run for Laura Morgan. She picked him up for £40,000 at the horses and training sale, the Gigginstown Dispersal. He's just a fine horse on his day. He's only 9, so he's not well past it. He's not like the 11 and 12-year-olds that come out of the Gigginstown Dispersal. Like he's only had the 15 starts over fences. Like coming off in the 2020 season, he started off. He won a good race at Punchestown there. He beat Tornado Flyer first time up. He's a decent record, fresh usually, and he showed last season he won over hurdles down at Limerick that he still retains plenty of his ability. He's a mark of 150, and he's got to give weight away all around here. But essentially, like if you still train by Noel and Noel sent him over here off a mark of 150, he'd probably be getting a few pounds from the handicapper. It's the fact that he's trained by a British trainer now, he's probably been left alone. So I thought he's interesting here first time out. I just thought the price was quite big. 25, 33 to 1. You could do a lot worse than take on Daily Tiger there.
Okay, we need to move on to the third of them. I hope you're getting your 5 casts together because we've done 4 legs. And so here comes the final leg. We can keep this tight, lads, please. So let's get Barry out of the way and see how much time he leaves to the other 2. It's a really competitive handicap chase, this, as you'd expect for the money. 75, this one's worth 100,000. The Bateau London Gold Cup. Good boy Bobby is a top weight. And interesting here, Kitty's Light. They're claiming off Kitty's Light with Jack Tudor going to Wetherby. Barry, what do you think?
Yeah, another favourite for me, Mike. Major Dundee. Alan King spoke about going for the old Hennessy at Newbury. Now, he's off a mark of 132 here. I'm not sure he's guaranteed to get in unless he actually goes and wins. Now, if he wins this, he's probably getting into Hennessy in around the 140 mark, possibly lower. I think he's one of the best handicapped staying chasers around. Very lightly raced over fences, only had 4 starts. King's Yard starting to go that bit better. He had a horrendous time during the summer. 19% strike rate at the moment in the last fortnight. Tom Cannon up. I think Major Dundee, he's a son of Scorpion, Thomas Coyle, but I think he will go very, very close. He's probably my best bet on the card on Saturday at Ascot.
But what we need to do is quickly skip to the 3 of you and say those are our 5 for the 5 cast. Before I wrap this up and get your 5s, anything else that you want to mention? Ronan?
No, I did have a liking for Ansam in this race, just to quickly finish up on this London Gold Cup, but kind of put off by Evan Williams' comments in his table tour this week. He was basically saying he needs to run and would be prepping for other targets down the line. And then for that reason, I'll probably end up siding with our power for Sam Thomas. Ran a huge race at Cheltenham in the ultimate handicap chase there. He was 5th there, not beating a million miles, and he's only had 6 starts over fences. So 7 to 1 he'd do for me there. Yeah, and that's all really.
Anything else elsewhere? Are you in the Keane camp or the Lee camp? Getting very interesting.
It is getting very interesting. Yeah, I always want Colin Keane obviously to do well. He's a Mead man only down the road there in Trim, but he would like to see Billy get one over the line and be a huge thing for him. So it's great entertainment. Absolutely.
To the nicest guys.
I definitely second that as well. Sorry, as Colin is there, but I think Billy, from where his career has gone, from where he was struggling with his weight to get back, he went national hunt to do this. He's one of the best riders, I tell you, if you watch him through races. So even being a Mead man, I'd like to see a Cork man beating us this time. I think it'd be good for the game as well.
He's a Limerick man. If you tell him he's a Cork man, he'd do his nut.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
You've thrown him over there.
You better you better lose that very quickly. Okay, Barry, now let's just talk through this competition. You talk us through exactly what you have to do here.
Yeah, so we're going to go through our 5 selections for the 5 cast. And anyone that wants to get involved, there's €100 free bet up for grabs. We'll be giving it away on next week's show. 2 things. Number 1, you'll see the runner down below. give you the full details. Two things. Obviously, put your 5cast in the comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hashtag 5cast. And scan the QR code on screen. Download the Stablemate app if you haven't already, and put in your 5cast selections for this week. And you must have 2 winners or more to go into the draw. So a Canadian, if you like, 5cast, and make sure to put in the hashtag 5cast. So we're going to play now, Mike.
Yeah, let's say that I've got this little message here says abandon hope or leave the den to hear, but I don't know if it was sent to you, to Ronan, or to Tom, or all three of you. So let's go through then, and I'm going to have their naps and next best at the end. So let's go through these 5 races. Let's go back and start at Wetherby. In the first of them, the 3 o'clock, the West Yorkshire Hurdle. Barry.
Sporting John.
Ronan.
Indefatigable.
Thomas Coyle.
Sporting John as well.
Right, on we go to the Charlie Hall. Tommy.
Ahoy, Senor.
Barry.
Eldorado Allen.
Ronan.
Ahoy, Senor.
Right, Ascot, the hurdle, the 205. Not an easy handicap, but these Ascot handicaps are quite tough. So good luck if you're trying to get hold of somebody from Clairvoyance Monthly. Ronan.
Broomfield Berg.
Barry.
Annie Harmon asking.
Yes. And Tommy.
Yeah, Annie Harmon asking.
So we're getting 2s everywhere. We haven't got a unanimous verdict yet. The 2-mile handicap chase, the 240. Barry.
Time White.
Ronan.
I was going to go Monsieur Lecoq, but I'll take a swing at the big price one, Daily Tiger.
Thomas.
I'll put in Monsieur Lecoq, so I might get one over and Rona.
And the 3-mile handicap chase, the big race at Ascot. Barry.
Major Dundee.
Ronan.
Our Power.
And Thomas.
No,
that doesn't run.
Oh, Kitty like.
Right, those are the 5s from the 3 wise men, or that's what it says here.
Nap at MB.
And now, what about the naps and next bests? Let's go first to Ronan on this.
Yeah, Nap, the Gold Cup winner in waiting, Ahoy Senor, and next best, Broomfield Berg.
Thomas.
Yeah, I'm going to nap Ahoy Senor as well. Next best will be. Yeah, I'm going to go Monsieur Lecoq.
Barry.
I'm going to go Nap Major Dundee, just because we have prices in and I know what I'm getting at 4 to 1. And my next best runs at Galway on Sunday. And it's a horse called Deeply Superficial for Gordon Elliott. It's in there against Battling Bezzy. Both of them are declared. And that's my next best, Gordon Elliott's Deeply Superficial. Good horse.
It says here I've got to do this as well. So I'm going to nap Ahoy Senor as well. I think he's a good thing. And I'm going to go. I'm going to go next best against Goshen, who I think will be as fasten your seatbelts job. I actually think Samarive is a better bet in that opening race than 130 at Ascot. So that is that. That's another 30 minutes of your life just gone by. I hope you learned something and you at least are better informed. And we will do it all again next week. So I'll say goodbye on their behalf because I don't trust them to keep it short. It is top left of your screen, Barry Doyle. Bottom left, Thomas is even. No, it's not. It's Ronan Groome. Bottom right is the man with the hat. He won't take his hat off. Next time he has a winner, he will, but he might even tell us before he has a winner next time. We might make a few quid. Thanks for your company. This has been Champ.ie week 2. Good luck. And if you can face it, we're back at the same time next week.